So if there's one thing you can expect about the job interview, that is the unexpected. Because interviews are designed so that you ask something the candidate didn't prepare for, otherwise it would be a very bad interviewer in the first place. And keeping this in mind, I found that an important criteria for a well-prepared candidate and ultimately a successful candidate would be for them to know how to manage expectations. And truth be said, I help many Italians, and they seem to be really good at this. I had people who applying for super senior level roles who asked me, Dan, can you explain to me Amazon's 14 leadership principles? And we spent 1 hour, even more than 1 hour, me explaining them those leadership principles. And believe me when I tell you, it's not because they couldn't speak English or they couldn't understand English or because they couldn't understand what the words were saying. No. The actual reason why they asked me to do so is because they knew I had a lot more insight into that specific scenario. And for that, they gained a lot more information than they would otherwise have. So by managing expectations and by being cautiously optimistic about these things, you actually gain a lot more insight when compared to an approach like, well, I'm a good person, so going in the job interview, I always do my best. I take ownership of the situation and hope for the best. It almost never turns out positively in this way. And I know many people then it will be only a formality for these things. Fine. It's almost never, like 99% of the time, it's, an indicator of that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, if we go a bit further during an interview, like, okay, you might have a different interviewing style than what I'm saying here, but knowing how to manage your expectations during an interview, knowing to be cautiously optimistic about it, it's actually something that is supposed to future-proof you against various interviewing techniques, such as, the best interviewers I know will make you feel so comfortable that you will tell them everything you've ever done in your life, is more likely the bad stuff as well. And since there's no such thing as an ideal candidate for any role, you're decreasing your chance to get the job, or vice versa. They would like to try to push you to the limits, to ask you impossible questions where many people would block. But whereas if you're cautiously optimistic, you know that, hey, yes, this is the reason why they would be interested in these things. So knowing to manage expectations is a very important aspect that you should be aware of both before and during a job interview. So I would very much recommend you to take a closer look to try to understand why employers ask you some questions, why an interview takes 45 minutes, why there will be 6 interviews and not 2 interviews in a job interview process, why is the job description so generic, or why is it so specific. Try to question all these things, of course, to the extent you have time, and to the extent, of course, you have the ability to prioritize these things, because you could prepare for 10 years for an interview if you wanted to. But the idea is to use more common sense and really understand very well that after all, it's just an experience into which the better you interview, the better the outcome will hopefully be.